everybody, welcome back to Knitting Butterflies. My name is Emily and I thought I would stop by and do a podcast about current works and projects that I've had for the month of August. So thank you so much for joining me. If you're new to the podcast, my name is Emily. You can find me on Ravelry as Emily Straw. You can find me on Instagram as ButterflyM4, and I have a Facebook page. You can go to knittingbutterfliespodcast.com for show notes and things like that. So I hope you all are doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a lot of fun products to show you today, so I think it's going to be a good day. So the first project I have is actually the sweater that I am wearing, and I'm going to back up so that you can see this sweater. Actually, I'm going to back up all the way back here. So this is the sweater that I just finished this week. This is the Pavement Pullover. This is by Veera Valimaki, and the yarn that I used is Western Skynet's Aspen Sock, which is a merino silk blend, and it's really lovely. You can see it's a little bit kind of see-through, so I do have to wear an undershirt on it. It's a really light fingering weight sweater, but I love this. I feel like this is totally going to be a staple in my wardrobe. It covers my bum so that if I wanted to wear leggings with it, I totally can. It's so soft and it's so comfy, and it's not too hot at all. It's actually 85 degrees outside today, and I've been wearing it comfortably all day. So I love this sweater. This sweater is one that I've had in my queue for a long time, and I've kind of been debating on a few different sweaters that I wanted to knit. And I like to have a really simple project going and a really complex project going at the same time. And I had, it's not super complex, but a more complex pair of socks that was going. And so this was my Game of Thrones knitting when I would binge episodes of Game of Thrones, or just watch TV, ride in the car. I took this sweater camping. It wasn't really camping. My family has a cabin in the South Park area in Colorado, and it takes us a few hours to get there, and so my husband drove the whole way, and I got to sit and knit on my sweater for a lot of the weekend. That's one thing I really love about camping, is that you literally just get away from everything, and so you have lots of time to just sit and enjoy yourself. So I knit a ton of this sweater when I was in the car. Almost like probably at least 2/3 of the body of the sweater in the car. And so the sweater only took 2 weeks to make, which was really exciting, and that includes blocking and weaving in the ends. And I really love it. I keep thinking about this sweater, and I kind of consider this like a fail in knitting terms, in that I didn't swatch at all for this sweater, so that was a mistake. Therefore, I didn't get gauge, and this is a fingering weight yarn, but it's a really light fingering. It's very thin compared to the other fingering weight yarns that I've used, and so so it made a lighter fabric, and I used US 7s because I've been working on my tension, trying to tighten up my stitches just a little bit so I can knit with the needles that are recommended more often instead of going down a couple sizes. And so I knit it on a 7, a US 7. Like I said, didn't swatch at all, which is a bad idea. I believe the pattern called for 4s on the collar part right here, so it's knit from top down, and it's a raglan, but it's kind of a different construction than a raglan. It's a more, the line is not quite 45 degrees. It's a more horizontal sloped line that the raglan creates, which I think is super flattering. It makes your shoulders look really comfortable, and it's actually really comfortable to wear. So you start with the collar, and there's actually some short rows in the back. So the collar in the back is a little bit longer than it is in the front. And I think I used like 2s or 3s. I know I went lower than what was recommended because I just couldn't find my needles, and so I just used what I had. Again, not swatching, and I'm glad that I went down that size because I think it's the material of the yarn. It kind of just wants to just relax a little bit, and so it's kind of, the smaller needle size is keeping it as high as it is right now, which I think is really nice. And then I used US size 7s on the body of the sweater. And then I went down to 5s because the sweater has a garter edge. I went down to 5s for the garter edge, and it has a split hem. Let me show you the hem on this too. I know I'm keeping on standing up and that kind of stuff. It's not really a split hem, it's more of like a curved hem, so it goes up in the middle and then comes back down, and I really liked that detail about it. And it's a really fun construction the way that Veera did that. I really enjoyed knitting the short rows for the back and for the front. And then for the garter I used US 5s, and then I used US 6s to bind off, because when I have a bind off for a garment, I'm not a big fan of like the stretchy bind off and the sewn bind off. I like the stability of a regular bind off, but I don't like how it kind of sucks it in a little bit if you do it in the same needle size. So I will often go up 1 needle size for the bind off. And so I did US 6s for the bind off. And it's funny because I knit the sweater body, knit the garter, bound it off. And I often only have 2 needles for a project. And this particular project I had 4. So I had 2s, 7s, 5s, and 6s. And so I'm used to only having 2 needles. And so when I do the bind off, then I just pick up the last needle that I use and I start knitting again. So I had the whole body knit and bound off, and then I picked up, or I put all the stitches on my sleeves onto my needle with the last needle that I had been using and didn't even think about it, and knit almost the whole sleeve with US 5s without even thinking about it. This is what happens when I'm watching Game of Thrones, is that I don't pay attention to what I'm doing, which was the whole point of knitting a stockinette sweater. So I knit almost the whole sleeve in US 5s. And I was like, gosh, this fabric looks so different. I like it. It's not quite so loose and drapey. It's really nice fabric and stuff. And then I figured out what I had done, and it was not going to look good to have the tighter fabric be on the arms with the looser fabric be on the body. And so I had to rip out the whole sleeve and pick up those stitches again and do it again with 7s. So I did the same thing. I knit the sleeve on 7s, knit the garter, so there's a garter cuff. I knit the garter cuff on 5s, bound it off in 6s, and then I did the exact same thing on the second sleeve. I couldn't believe that I did that. I picked up all the stitches on the other arm with 5s and knit halfway down the sleeve before I realized what I had done. And so I had to rip out that sleeve again, but it did get finished and it's super comfortable. Some people kind of say that they don't like, there's some extra fabric in this underarm right here, but I actually really like it. I think it doesn't look bad. I don't feel like it puckers in the front or the back at all, but it makes it so that you can lift your arms way up in the air and you don't kind of run into that thing where like your sweater kind of pulls itself up when you lift your arms up. So I actually really like just that little bit of extra fabric in the arms. It's super comfortable. I feel like some projects are a process project when you really wanted to see if you can do it. And some projects are definitely a product project where you just really want to wear the item. This for sure was a product project for me. I wanted to have something like this in my wardrobe, just a simple gray sweater that's really elegant, really classy. I feel like the silk just kind of bumps it up a notch even more and just making it so nice, and like it's really luxurious, and I keep like touching it all the time. And my husband, I wore it to lunch with my husband today and he kept like rubbing my arm and I was like, oh thanks, and he's like, oh your sweater's so soft. Okay, thanks. No, he's super sweet. But so that is my Pavement pullover. I would highly recommend it. I know Meg from Bad Wolf Girl Knits is knitting it right now as well, and it's a super fast and easy project. I really love my boxy sweater, but the boxy sweater is so much knitting. I knit on that pretty much exclusively, and it took me a solid month to knit that one. But this one I knit, it only took a couple weeks. The stitch count is quite a bit smaller, but it still creates that really nice boxy style. And I have started to kind of eliminate all the waist shaping in my garments lately, just because I like having that extra give. I feel like it looks more flattering on me, and I don't know, it's more stylish right now. and I feel comfortable in it. I feel relaxed. I feel like I want to wear my garments more that don't really have a lot of shaping in the waist that's pulling it in. And I still feel like it's flattering depending on, you know, the material that you use and things like that. And so I feel like a really lightweight sweater like this, in the boxy shape is really flattering. And so I would highly recommend knitting this pattern, and it was a fun one. So that's that project. I don't have any other finished projects right now, but I have several works in progress. So we talked about how some projects are for the process and some projects are for the product. This project is for the product, or for the process. I pretty much just wanted to knit this to see if I could do it. This is the Mesmeric cardigan by Katy Banks. This is a Knit Picks pattern, and it's designed for Knit Picks palette, which is a yarn that I really enjoy working with. And it is a Fair Isle sweater. I believe it's in their Fair Isle collection, but you can buy the pattern all by itself. But this is going to be quite the project when it's all done. This is a completely colorwork sweater from start to finish, and I'm going to put a picture right here for you. So the color work on this sweater is really intense. It's really, really beautiful though. And I have been looking at this sweater since the day it came out in their Fair Isle collection. I think it's from 2015. But I thought it was just so beautiful and I've wanted to knit it. So I finally downloaded the pattern. I've had the yarn forever to make this. And I had a couple different choices for the yarn color. And so what I ended up doing was I took the original photo of the pattern, popped it into Photoshop, and then I altered the colors of the sweater in Photoshop. And I have created a video for this, but I don't have permission to use that photo in that video. So I have alternative ways that I'm going to show you how I did that someday, just not anytime soon. But I can show you what I have done with the photo just to give you an idea of kind of the color work play that I was doing with this. So I decided that, and I talked it over with my husband and showed him all the options, and we both kind of agreed that the turquoise coloring would match my wardrobe a lot better than my second choice, which was the yellow. And so I have all these Knit Picks colors, and I keep them all in a bowl just so I can work with them pretty easily. But I have a dark gray, a medium gray, a super light gray for the white, and then I'm going back and forth between these two turquoise colors because I only had one skein of each, and the pattern called for 2 skeins of one pop color. And so I'm kind of trading back and forth between those two depending on how they fall in the motif. And so far it's going pretty well. Like I said, the other option I had was to do the yellow. Part of me is kind of wishing I had done the yellow, but I think it'll be good. I think it's going to be good. So this pattern it's pretty intense. But I think it's the most intense right in the beginning. So you knit a saddle shoulder for each shoulder, and actually if you're interested in knitting this pattern, the saddle shoulder can be your swatch. You don't actually have to swatch an extra swatch. You can knit this saddle shoulder and measure it and see if that would work for your gauge swatch. So you knit both of those, and then you place the swatches so that they mirror each other. And by the way, you have to knit those flat. You can't knit those in the round. And so that's part of where this pattern is really intense, is there's quite a bit of knitting, stranded color work flat, which is not horrible, but it's not as easy as knitting it in the round. And so I didn't realize that when I was reading the pattern and I started knitting it, and I was like, no, this is insane. There has to be a better way to do this, right? And so I kept reading the pattern, and I'm pretty sure there are some ways that you can change it, that you could knit it in the round, but it's not written that way. The pattern is really intense, like the charts are really intense. And so my other thought though was that if it could have been easier, the designer probably would have designed it to be easier, because she seems like a super smart designer. And she didn't. So I'm just trusting the pattern designer on this, doing what she says, and we'll go from there. So you knit the saddles flat, and then you lay them so they mirror each other. You pick up stitches on the edge, just like a regular saddle shoulder, cast on your stitches for the neck, and then pick up stitches on the edge again. And then this first little motif right here with these triangles are made with short rows. Is this the ugly side? Yeah, I dropped a stitch right here. It's not super great. My short rows are not perfect at all. They're much better on this side. But short rows, fair isle, flat. This is like a magnum opus project. So it was funny. I actually, the first time I did this, I did the saddles, which I've kept the saddles pieces both times, and then I picked up the stitches, cast on the collar, picked up the stitches, and then did all the short rows and was so proud of myself, and then realized that my saddle shoulders were not mirroring each other, and they have to, because there's these live stitches right here that you need to use for the shoulder and then your sleeve eventually. This part was over here. So I had knit all those short rows, and my saddle shoulders were on incorrectly. And so I almost cried, threw it across the room, like not literally, but like shoved it in the bowl and put it on the shelf and said no more. Knit this whole sweater as a break because I couldn't do it. And then once I knew what I was getting into, okay, this is knit flat, stranded color work. You can do this, it's gonna be okay. Like 6 short rows or like 10 short rows, it's not a big deal, you can do it. And so I sat down and I did it in one afternoon, did all the short rows, and then I kept going. And so I'm still knitting flat at this point. This is the back of the sweater, and I'm getting through it. So I haven't had time to sit down and work on it again recently because it's pretty intense still to knit. I feel like I really like stranded knitting when you can knit it in the round, because it's like cross stitching. You can really easily see what stitches need to go where. When you knit it flat, it's really hard to see that on the back. Ooh, the back looks nice from a distance. So, so it's taking some practice and it'll get there, but all the projects that I read, and I have stalked this like crazy on Instagram, and everybody says that if you can get through the yoke to where you join in the round, it just flies. And that's kind of what I'm hoping, because I'm actually hoping to wear this to Rhinebeck in October. We'll see if I can get it done. I don't know. I don't know if I can get this done in time or not. I feel like it's totally doable, but we'll have to see. So that is the Mesmeric cardigan. I think it's going to be really amazing. This sweater, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous that I'm not going to wear it a whole lot. Like really nervous about that actually. I mean, I have gauge, that's perfect, but it seems a little small. I can just wear it open. It has a light color, but I tried to I was really playing with the yarn dominance, and I don't like to wear light colors in the winter, and obviously I'm going to wear this in the winter. This is not a summer garment, and so I was really playing with the yarn dominance, and I wanted the lightest gray color to really fall back and let the grays kind of take over in the dominance. And so I've tried really hard to make the grays be the dominant color in this, with little pops of turquoise, both the light and the dark, and I think it's going to be nice. So stay tuned for that one. We'll see how it goes. Ooh, I also did swatch. I did a saddle where I actually switched the darkest gray and the lightest gray to see what I would think of that. And I talked to my friends and we all kind of agreed that it just looks kind of like Space Invaders. It wasn't nearly as pretty with the dark and the light switched. So it was worth a shot. but I like the way that I'm doing it a lot better. So stay tuned for my crazy cardigan. I have a couple pairs of socks going right now. The first pair is a sock blank. This is in my Erin Lane bag. This is my favorite sock knitting bag because of this thing. I clip it on my purse, and then I don't have to shove it in my purse. It just clips on, and I can carry it everywhere. So I really love that. This is a sock blank that I purchased a couple years ago that I think is really pretty. It's even prettier when I roll it all out. So here's the sock blank, and this is from Roundabout Yarn. Here's her tag. Oop, is it gonna blow it out? There you go. Roundabout Yarn, and it's called Fallfetti. There's that tag for you. And I'm knitting it, and it looks pretty, definitely. It's a fun knit. I mean, it's just a plain old vanilla sock. This is one of the last 2 pairs of socks that I have in my project where I was going to try and knit through 12 pairs of socks in 2016. So it's been sitting there waiting to get knit up. I like it. Orange really isn't my favorite color, and so I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But my son really likes it, my oldest son, and so there's a really big possibility that this is going to be his pair of socks when everything is done. He and I are wearing the same size socks. The kid is 10 years old. What am I going to do with this kid? Like, he can wear my socks. He's not allowed to steal my hand knit socks, but I did give him all of my commercial socks, and so he might get to wear it for a season, and then I might have to take all of those socks back. So it's pretty though. I like kind of the stripiness that has been popping up. And then this is just my basic vanilla sock with a fish lips kiss heel that I really enjoy knitting. I turned the heel last night during the finale of Game of Thrones, which did you watch? Can I just say something real quick? If you don't watch Game of Thrones, or if you have not caught up, skip like 20 seconds. Do you think the White Walkers could have made it over the wall if Daenerys hadn't gone to save Jon Snow? Because they used the dragon to get over the wall. So is it her fault? I love Daenerys. She's my favorite. And I'm just like, oh crap. Okay, skip past that. So there's my sock. It's lovely. It's coming along nicely. This is just my super simple. I need simple projects while I am working on the crazy sweater. So there's that pair of socks. I have another pair of socks. I like to go to knit night at the Loopy U sometimes up in Fort Collins, Colorado, and that is the closest local yarn store to me. And I really enjoy going to knit night there. And I want to be a good customer, I suppose. If I want my knitting to be kosher there, so I try to bring projects that are yarn that I have bought from them or purchased yarn to work on a project for them. So I started some knit night socks, and this yarn is some of the Loopy Legends yarn. It's kind of a mess right now, but it's really pretty. This is the ball band for it, the Loopy Legends. These are exclusive colors to the Loopy U, and this colorway is called Amber's Carefree Day, and I bought this yarn because Amber from the Yarn Hoarder podcast is a Loopy Legend, and this was her yarn. And when I know people who are Loopy Legends, I actually always try to buy the yarn that is their colorway. And so I just started these. I asked them to wind the yarn for me in the store, and I just started them, and I've only started the cuff. But those are going to be my knit night socks that I specifically bring to knit night so that I can be a good customer and just follow good etiquette when I'm at knit night in a yarn store, you know? So that is that project. My Firefly bag, cute. A friend of mine made it for me. Thank you. So that is that project. And then I have one more project that I am working on right now. Well, it's in progress. I'm actually not working on it right now, and I'll tell you why. But this bag is so amazing. This was by I believe Bethany from the Backstage Knitting podcast, one of the girls from the Backstage Knitting podcast made this bag. This is a Hamilton bag, and it's inspired by Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. Isn't it cute with like buttons on it? And they sent this bag to me as a prize for their Hamilton knit along that they did. And so I thought it was only fitting to use this bag for a Hamilton related project that's not a Hamel knit hat this time. But this is, it's kind of a tangled mess. It's been sitting in my bag for a while. This is the Love Always project. It's a cowl, it's a hat, it's all different kinds of stuff. So this is the project right here so far that I have. And for this, I am using a gradient kit from 100 Ravens. This was gifted to me by Jasmine of the Knitmore Girls. Here's the ball band. 100 Ravens. And it's a gradient set, so it's 400 yards. And what I like about this project is you can make it as long or as short as you want. And I wanted to make sure to use every last bit of yarn from this gradient set because it's so pretty. And it's in Eliza Schuyler gradient kit, who is my favorite of the Schuyler sisters. So it fades from this dark turquoise color. There's some mediums, and then we're up into some tans at the top. So far I have used 4 of the colors, and there are 7. I am missing one of my skeins of yarn. That particular skein kept coming untwisted a lot, and so it was just hanging out of my bag, and I would twist it back up and it would come untwisted all the time. And somewhere one day this summer I was knitting on this, and I knit on it at the pool, and I knit on it at lunch because we were getting free lunches from the school, and I was knitting on it at the bowling alley and a couple other places. I think I took it 5 different places that day. Got a ton done. And in one of those places I left that skein of yarn, and I was heartbroken. Oh, we got haircut that day too, and somewhere else. So I have called and visited every single place that we visited that day, and haven't been able to find it. I'm crossing my fingers that it's like buried under some seat in the car, and the next time I go detail my car, we're gonna find it. But until then, I just don't want to keep working on it because I'm literally ready for the next color in like 2 rows, and then I need that color, and so I don't want to keep working on it until I can find it. But I am determined. If I don't find it, and I'm going to set a date, and so now let's just put that out there. Let's say by September 15th, if I have not found that skein of yarn, I'm just going to contact the dyer and ask her if I can buy a full skein in that color, because it's a really pretty color, and I'll make a hat out of it or something too. And then I can keep knitting on that project. But oh my gosh, I felt like such a dummy. So this pattern, oh, I forgot to tell you about the pattern. So the pattern is called Love Always, and this is by Megan Williams of Knit Cahoots in the book Minnesota 52, which is this book right here. This is an amazing book, and I will show. Aren't they cute? It's this pattern right in the middle, and they show it all stretched out like this. So they show it all stretched out in the book like this, but then they show other ways that, like, lots of different ways that you can wear it. I don't like cowls around my neck at all, but you can kind of twist it at the top and it makes a hat. How fun is that? Or you can wear it as a cowl. Isn't it cute? I really like that. Or Megan, if you look her up on Instagram, she's Just Run Knit. She has it on her little head form where it's like a cowl, but then it like pulls up over into a hood so that just this part is out, or you can put it up as a face mask, which is really nice when it gets windy here in the winter. It would be nice just to have like a face mask to just pull up. So even if I don't really like to wear cowls, I feel like it would be totally worth it to have one just to pull up over my nose when it gets cold. So I think it's going to be a really great project, and it actually matches my coat like perfectly. And so I'm going to find that yarn so I can finish that. So like I said, September 15th, holding me accountable, right? Oh, and the stitch marker I wanted to show you, as if it's not Hamilton related enough, I have one of my stitch markers from One Geek to Craft Them All. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. There you go. In a Hamilton set that is super cute. So this is the quill, because he was writing like he was running out of time. So that is all of my knitting projects that I have going so far. I have one spinning project going, and I'm making a video about this project from start to finish that when it's finished I'll show you. But this fiber is some Into the Whirled. I joined my first fiber club and I'm so excited. I love Into the Whirled, and I have spun probably about 10 braids of their stuff at this point, and I just love it. I've not spun something that I didn't just adore. And when I went to Rhinebeck and saw their booth with all their spinning fiber, there wasn't a single thing in that booth that I wouldn't have bought if I had the money for everything. So to me, that says it's time to join a fiber club. And so I did. And so this was my first fiber from the fiber club. I did join just the regular club. I didn't join the luxe, but this is really, really pretty, and it's called Electric Bugaboo, and it's blues and greens and purple with a pop of hot pink, and I think it's really pretty. And so I am spinning that, and I took the braid and I split it into really long skinny pieces. I don't ever pre-draft my fiber. I like to draft my fiber as I go, and that's how I have spun actually since the day I got my spinning wheel a couple years ago. And so I'm planning on spinning this into a 3-ply, and I wanted it to be really crazy and all over the place. So some of the strips I split kind of thicker, some of them really thin, so that when I would spin them, it would kind of variate where the color changes were happening. And I have one bobbin done, and I'm almost done with the second bobbin of the singles, and so it's just really pretty. It's like the turquoise or the teal, I feel like pops up so much more when it's in. It's really pretty and it's very enjoyable. So I also got to try an Acreworks bobbin for the first time. Christy from Innisnit and I both have really close to matching wheels. Mine is an actual Ashford traditional, and hers was designed based off of an Ashford traditional, so hers uses the Ashford bobbins. And so she thought she would try the Acreworks bobbins, which I have been dying to try, and it didn't fit her wheel, and I felt so bad. So I actually purchased this from her, and I love this. It was a really enjoyable spinning experience. It glides really smoothly, and the flyer on my wheel kind of clanks against the bobbins a little bit. This still does a tiny bit, but not nearly as much as my wooden bobbins do. And so I felt like it was a much more smooth and relaxing spinning experience than my regular bobbins. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I plan on purchasing several more, probably in turquoise, because you know me and turquoise. And I was showing my husband that you can see the yarn through the bobbin, which was really cool, and he thought that was awesome. So hopefully next time I podcast, this will be done. And I did get in my August shipment. I'm not going to show it to you right now because I'll show it to you when I'm working on it. So that is all of those projects. I have one more project that I started. I think I'm going to start over though, but I'm going to show it to you really quick. So this is an Ottoman that my friend bought from Tuesday morning, and she sent me a picture of an Ottoman that had been yarn bombed and said, "Can you do this?" And I said, "Sure." So we went to Tuesday morning and she bought this, and it's really big. It's kind of crazy, and her house is not these colors at all. Her house is navies and grays and gold, and it's really classy. And this is just crazy, like pink and orange and just super fluffy. So we went to Tuesday morning and then we walked over to Hobby Lobby and we picked up a bunch of yarn. And I can show you what I've done so far. So far, I have crocheted one side. I thought I would do crochet because crochet goes so much faster than knitting. And so I went and I wouldn't have to worry about gauge or anything. I could just crochet as long as I wanted to and then call it good. Whereas with knitting, I probably would have to measure the stitches and then measure the Ottoman and make sure everything fit and stuff. So I decided to crochet it, and I'm making it so that when it lays flat, just a tad smaller, so that when we stretch it over, it'll be nice and tight. So I talked to Christy from Christy Glass Knits, who has done a ton of yarn bobbing, and she gave me some tips and tricks to help make this work really well. I think though, so first of all, they didn't have enough yarn to cover all 4 of the outsides in this yarn with crochet. So I think that if I knit it though, I'll have enough yarn. I might try knitting one side and see which I like better, knitting or crocheting. Because it's going to use less yarn, but it might take a little bit longer. So we'll have to see. So I have that, and then we have all these crazy other yarns to cover the top with. So we bought some gray and some lighter gray, like a taupey color. And then this is kind of the signature color. This is a really pretty, like a lightish navy color, and it's really heathered, and it's like a giant, it's a core spun yarn. I've not seen anything like this before, and it's a little bit darker than it's popping up in the picture. All of these are by Yarn Bee, which is the Hobby Lobby signature brand, and it's really inexpensive, which is why we went there to get all the yarn for it. But this is a core spun yarn, and it's super chunky and fun. So we did that one, and then we also got a white one of those, and you know, like my pile, hopefully it doesn't fall. But the plan is to either knit or crochet the sides and then actually weave these in on the top so that I can play a little bit with the texture and things like that. And I think it's going to be super fun. I've never done anything like this before, and so we'll have to see how this turns out. But in the meantime, this is what I've done so far, and that is actually pretty much it for all of my works in progress right now. So thank you again so much for joining me. Like I said, you can connect with me on Instagram as ButterflyM4. You can follow me on Instagram as ButterflyM4. Connect with me on Ravelry as Emily Straw. And you can find all the information for all these projects and everything on knittingbutterfliespodcast.com. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.